The Pentagon initially promoted the F-35 project to both Congress and the American citizenry as a cost-effective successor to the F-16 for air supremacy and the A-10 for close air support missions. However, now, more than 2 decades later, the presumption of the F-35 as a budget-friendly substitute for any aircraft has conspicuously collapsed. The F-35's reliability and its ability to effectively succeed the particularly triumphant F-16 is seriously open to consideration. The F-35's proficiency in undertaking the A-10's duties in close air support operations remains an issue of robust debate, a document attained by dint of great perseverance by the Project On Government Oversight POGO that reviews the findings of the comparative analyses performed between the 2 aircraft in 2018 and 2019, spawns additional skepticism. POGO acquired the F-35A and A-10C comparison test report courtesy of a Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) filing, followed by legal action when the initial application in April 2022 elicited no response. It appears that the outcomes of the investigation did not align with the anticipations of the Air Force's leadership, evident in their intense efforts to wholly conceal these findings for multiple years. The report on the testing was only prepared by the Pentagon's Examination Division in February 2022. This is a significant amount of time, spanning nearly 3 years since the conclusion of the tests. Moreover, a resistance to divulge many principal details is currently noticeable, as the report available to the public is notably laden with redactions. However, the disclosed data does not portray a promising outlook for the F-35's potential to effectively assume the A-10's crucial function, a role it has commendably fulfilled in the United States' 3 most recent significant land conflict engagements. Outcomes explored. Despite the extensive deletions present in the disclosed document, it is evident that the outcomes of these deficient trials did not align with the expectations of the concerned authorities. If indeed the F-35 had emerged as the triumphant, one can safely surmise that an unambiguous, assertive proclamation of this victory would have been highlighted within the initial segment of the report. The authors admit failure. Contrarily, the authors of the report admit that the F-35 fell short of expectations in the roles traditionally executed by the A-10. The report contends that the tests met the directives outlined by Congress, though this assertion might be disputed. The document further elaborates, reassuring that through the tests, vital findings were produced that could aid in enhancing the performance of F-35A in such mission roles. In the analysis, specific suggestions aimed at enhancing the operational efficacy of the F-35A, particularly within the realms of close aerial assistance, airborne forward aerial control, and combative search and rescue, are enumerated on 31st page. Censorship continues. Despite the report's authors supplying 8 distinct recommendations, Pentagon officials proceeded to censor the text, citing it as a matter of national security. It's noteworthy that no parallel recommendation list was provided by the authors for the A-10C device. According to the contents of the report, it sheds light on the F-35A's inadequacies concerning the assault role. An abruptly ended statement within the report implies a higher number of F-35A sorties would be required to engage the same quantity of targets as compared to A-10C sorties. The report evidently underscores the superiority of A-10 over F-35 when it comes to sortie efficiency. It requires a higher number of F-35 sorties to target the same number of foes as A-10. This is further reinforced later in the document when the evaluators highlight the comparative advantage of the A-10C's typical loadout, which permits more engagements than the F-35A's typical loadout. F-35A falls notably short of the A-10. The architects behind the A-10's design recognized the critical need for substantial ammunition storage on this aircraft. They realized that the field troops required a flying machine that could persist in the sky for extended periods. armed with an ample supply of explosives and rounds to facilitate continuous assaults. In terms of bomb load capacity, particularly in stealth mode, the F-35A falls notably short of the A-10, which hampers its functionality in close air support roles. The A-10C has the ability to carry 16 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs, whereas the F-35 only has space for a mere 8. Additionally, the A-10's renowned 30mm GAU-8 cannon system has a capacity for 1,350 rounds as opposed to the F-35A's rather compact 25mm cannon system, which holds a maximum of 181 rounds. Yet the bomb load and ammunition capacity become irrelevant when considering the F-35A's defective gun system, which fails to fire with precision. The import of necessitating more F-35 sorties to obliterate a target acquires a heightened gravity in light of the program's dismal readiness rates. In a comprehensive report released by the Government Accountability Office in September 2023, the daunting challenges posed by the sustenance of the F-35 across various services were examined in detail. A-10 pilots show more skill. The Government Accountability Office (GAO) has disclosed that the entire fleet of F-35 aircraft operates at less than a 50% full mission-capable rate. This implies a dual disadvantage. Not only does it necessitate a higher number of F-35 sorties to substitute the capacity of the A-10, but it also questions the likelihood of the F-35 fleet's frequency to adequately compensate for the shortfall. Inaccuracy of target engagement. Pilots maneuvering the A-10's demonstrated superior performance compared to those operating the F-35s. This difference is comprehensively articulated in the report, which extensively delves into measured location errors, a parameter defining the discrepancy between the intended target and the actual impact point of a GPS-guided weapon. A-10C pilots often adapted tactics that required them to be in closer proximity to the target as compared to F-35A pilots, the report elucidates, pointing to this particular variation as a justification for the disparity in bombing precision when utilizing GPS-guided armaments, despite the fact that only a scant number of real arms were discharged during the tests. In the realm of military aviation, pilots and the aircraft they fly have different strategies for survival and efficacy in combat situations. Pilots who helm the A-10, for instance, enjoy the advantage of increased proximity to their targets. This is primarily because their aircraft are fortified with armor protection and bolstered with redundant systems. Such design features equip the A-10 with the resilience to sustain damage yet safely return the pilot. Contrarily, F-35 pilots survive by adopting a different approach, wherein they soar high above potential threats and leverage the stealth capabilities of their vessels to remain unnoticed. The significance of precision in close air support cannot be overstated, particularly when ground troops are actively engaged in the field. A-10 is closer to the ground. The report acknowledges that A-10 pilots operate closer to the ground, thereby increasing their exposure to ground fire. This concurrence signifies the aircraft's resilience, its capacity to withstand damage yet maintain its flight trajectory. This crucial, mission-centric capability is inherent in the A-10's design, a feature not present in the F-35's blueprint. There also stands a slim probability of the F-35 fleet achieving sufficient flight frequency to compensate for the observed shortfall. A-10 with a lower workload. In light of the prevalent applaud for the F-35's lauded data-sharing capabilities, the report alludes to an intriguing implication. It was found that the pilots manning the A-10s during the tests experienced a significantly lower workload, indicating a reduction in tasks assigned during airborne forward air controller operations, compared to the pilots operating the F-35AS. In the course of these operations, one aircraft's pilot identifies the target and communicates all pertinent details to another pilot, who will execute the actual strike. Advocates for the F-35 program frequently highlight the aircraft's sophisticated sensors and instantaneous data sharing capability. They argue this amplifies the comprehensive force's proficiency in developing a unified understanding of the combat environment. The symbiosis between A-10 and F-35. The disclosure that eliciting synergy between F-35 pilots calls for a higher level of exertion suggests a deviation from the aircraft's highly touted capabilities. Regrettably, the subsequent part of the evaluation report, which might carry profound implications, is classified and thus renders the depth of the issue unknown. A resounding inference by the test pilots underscores the criticality of both the A-10 and niche-specific aircrafts during the evaluations. The proposition was made by pilots that an attack by A-10S, safeguarded by F-35s, could embody a formidable liaison. The symbiosis of the two platforms' pros, while counteracting their cons, can augment the odds of realizing mission goals. Extracts from the report substantiate. In ceding to the limited available intel regarding the evaluations, the claim that the F-35 outshines the A-10 in fulfilling its trifold obligations, according to the report, falls short of evidence. Only the data matters. Policy making by legislators should hinge firmly on empirical data rather than default to the assertions put forward by Air Force authorities. Congress, in the case of the A-10, appears to be on the precipice of an unrecoverable error founded more on partisan and truncated claims from Air Force leaders rather than solid evidence. The F-35's prowess in superseding the A-10 remains unverified. Furthermore, Air Force Command has yet to launch even a preliminary initiative to coach their F-35 pilots on assuming the most vital combat role currently entrusted to them.